From being slapped with a lawsuit for half of his assets, to getting public advice about prenups from Sean O'Malley, here's why Israel Adesanya might face court due to his crazy ex-girlfriend. Now, the UFC middleweight champion was known to keep his dating life private, but his most notable partner came into the spotlight in 2019. I'm talking about Charlotte Pedrell, of course, a real estate agent in Auckland with a pretty decent career. But there was very little public information about her. The two had been spotted hanging out and making videos together on their Instagram accounts. Charlotte was also there in the crowd when Izzy won the undisputed title against Robert Whittaker. So it's safe to say that the two were making some pretty big waves with their public appearances. But after early 2020, the two of them weren't seen together again. Most people assumed that they just called it quits. But little did fans know that things had turned pretty ugly. It all started when Pedrell allegedly threatened the UFC star about taking half his wealth. You might think that's strange since they were never married, but the laws in New Zealand state that if you've been dating long enough, even without being married, you're allowed to claim your partner's wealth. Imagine that. Charlotte didn't have any kids with Adesanya, so there's no child support to claim either. But she still decided to take the matter to court, and the mixed martial arts icon could potentially lose a significant chunk of his wealth. However, it doesn't seem like Stylebender's too worried about it, and he doesn't mind firing back some brutal responses either. So, get this. The only thing that let the fans know something was going on between the two ex-lovers was when Adesanya posted a few screenshots of Pedrell's messages to his Instagram story, in which his ex-girlfriend is talking about using her background in mental health to manipulate people. Now, she did go on to say that she chooses not to do that, but claiming to be able to manipulate people at will doesn't make you look like a saint if you ask me. Another screenshot showed her complaining about living in Adesanya's shadow, and how that made her feel very small. Yikes. That really doesn't sound like a supportive partner to me. Sounds like the two wanted very different things in life. So it's not a shock that they separated. The two-time UFC champ even went on the record saying that he wished it happened earlier, also calling Charlotte out for trying to play the victim role. Not just that, Adesanya also didn't care about Charlotte's threats to come after his assets. In fact, he's hoping she takes it to court like she said she would. I mean, Stylebender has all the time in the world now, after knocking out his greatest rival, so he's not afraid of picking a legal battle either. The middleweight champ also got a few extra shots in by saying she has a sugar daddy now who could pay for her lawyers. One thing we should all learn about Stylebender: if you go after him, inside or outside the cage, he'll try to get you back with everything he's got. Now, it's one thing to talk smack on social media, but Izzy is very confident he won't lose any of his assets. Despite many people thinking it's bizarre that Adesanya must give up half of his wealth, the law still supports Charlotte's argument. In New Zealand, if you've been dating longer than 3 years, you have the same rights as a married couple. Now, there's no public information on how long the two have been dating, but I'd have to guess it was probably more than 3 years. Although, Stylebender claims that Pedrell wasn't helpful to his career. In fact, she actually cost him a lot of money. The UFC star threw a series of insults Charlotte's way, also calling her an entitled brat for trying to claim everything Israel has built for himself. Izzy posted another story that referred to Achraf Hakimi's recent divorce with Iba Abuk, who claimed half of his wealth. But Achraf had put all his assets in his mom's name. And his smart move earned him tons of praise from influencers and fighters alike. Now, even though the Kiwi fighter didn't directly say his assets are under a different family member's name, he's still pretty sure that all his money is secure too. In fact, he can also try and claim half of Charlotte's net worth, since she's got a decent career. But that's just not what he wants, because he wants to move on. Speaking of which, while we know about the legal issues Israel is facing after separation, there's little to no information about the actual cause of the breakup. Many of the sources close to Izzy claim that Pedrell wasn't supportive of him during the time that they were together. But that's only one of the many reasons why the 33-year-old wasn't happy in his relationship. Adesanya also claimed that Charlotte sold information about him, which is why he doesn't care about her at all. Honestly, that's a serious breach of trust right there. I mean, Izzy is a professional fighter at the highest level, and there are too many competitors who'd love to dig out any dirt on him, and Charlotte had access to all that information and more. So, if Stylebender's allegations really are true, there won't be a lot of public support left for Pedrell. Israel ended his message by saying he hasn't been in love with her in a long time. And now he finally has a partner who isn't jealous of his popularity. I guess that's the silver lining in all this madness. Because despite the rough breakup, it looks like both of them have moved on with different partners. And Adesanya has found unbelievable success since he broke up with Pedrell. The breakup happened sometime in 2020. So that was around the time Israel was set to make his first title defense against Yoel Romero. Everyone knew by that point that Stylebender would be the next big thing in the UFC. But he hadn't realized his full potential yet. After the Romero fight, Izzy dismantled the undefeated Brazilian Paulo Costa. And since then, his star power has only skyrocketed. Adesanya has fought for the title 7 times. And since he's a big star, we all know he's getting a big chunk of pay-per-view points. Stylebender reportedly became the second highest paid UFC fighter in 2022, right behind Conor McGregor. But perhaps his biggest accomplishment was his deal with Puma. The 33-year-old became the first UFC fighter to get a sponsorship from a major shoe brand, and it showed that MMA athletes are being given the respect they deserve. Now, the reason why I bring this deal up specifically is because it was a topic of discussion on Stylebender's Instagram stories. The middleweight king claimed that his ex wanted to share the revenue he made through the Puma sponsorship as well, even though the deal took place 2 years after they broke up. Not to pick any sides here, but the timeline doesn't play in Charlotte's favor too much, because she could have gone to court right after they broke up. And now it all just seems like she was waiting for Adesanya's star power to grow. All that being said, Charlotte hasn't released any official statements, and unlike Izzy, she definitely hasn't thrown any public shots at her ex. If you ask me, this might just be her wanting to keep her cards close to her chest. So once this dispute hits the court, there might be some surprising revelations. Now, it'll be a long time before these legal matters are actually addressed. But most people have already formed their opinions on this matter. Most notably, Sugar Sean O'Malley, who came to the defense of his peer. The number 2 ranked bantamweight in the world discussed Adesanya's breakup on his podcast, claiming that he initially didn't even realize that Izzy had a girlfriend, which was the consensus amongst many other MMA fans too. Why? Because having a great sense of style obviously makes you gay, right? Anyway, coming back to Sean and his thoughts on the whole thing, he thought it was ridiculous for Charlotte to want half of Izzy's money. Unless the two had been dating for 15 years and she was there from the beginning and sacrificed everything for Israel's career, she shouldn't feel entitled to anything. And hey, I agree with him here. The next bantamweight title challenger suggested that Izzy should just give his ex $1,000 as a gesture, and she'll be fine after that. I'm not sure if it'll be that easy though. Sugar also advised his followers to sign a prenup before getting married like him, because he thinks it's the right choice. Now, I don't know if that's the best way to start a marriage, but when you have that much value attached to you, it's important to protect your assets in case of a divorce. And after seeing Tim Elliott's recent divorce, after his wife cheated on him on their wedding night, and the whole drama with Izzy, the prenup idea doesn't sound too evil now, does it? So, there you have it, fight fans. From Sean's advice to Adesanya on protecting his assets, to Izzy potentially having to give away half of his wealth to someone he's never been married to, that was all about why Israel Adesanya might be facing court because of his crazy ex-girlfriend.